Welcome to the David and the Bear podcast. Let's have a good time. Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of the David and the Bear podcast. I'm here with a father figure in my life, the division president of Red Door Homes. His title might have changed within the last couple of years, but division president of Red Door Homes. And like I said earlier, a father figure. If y'all have listened to the previous episodes, Josh, this is his dad. And yeah, I'm here with Joe Williams. Joe?
Hey, Devon, good to be here, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And you're right, the title has technically changed. I'm actually the operations manager for Red Door Homes. So yeah, there has been a title change in the past months.
Like I said, guys, he's been building houses since as far as I could remember, and as far as he could remember too. So
Since high school.
yeah. So Joe, where do you want to start? Do you want to start on the low, or do you want to start on the high first?
Hey man, wherever you're at, like you and I talked about, I'm a shoot from the hip kind of person. So I use this a saying a lot, which probably isn't a proper saying, but uh, let's do it this way. You're riding the cat. All I'm going to do is hand you the reins. So
Okay, so I guess right from the jump, what's one of your biggest challenges in life?
currently,
Or
currently, or just in general.
just in general?
Uh, I would I would say in general, Devon, um, politics.
Mm.
We'll try to avoid a little bit, but no, I don't want to say it's a struggle in my life as
Mhm,
far as my faith, because my faith in and of itself is not a struggle. But
mhm,
you've been around me enough to know that I love God and I love Jesus with all my heart. I tell everybody I'm definitely a Christian, probably not the best example of one
mhm,
sometimes. As I've gotten older, what I've kind of seen, I find myself more focused, and as you know, is what our family's going through right now. With our daughter was diagnosed with something that
mhm.
we're battling to go
Yep.
through, and it can test our faith. Of course, I won't go into a lot of detail because I know she listens to these, and I don't know what information she really wants to share, but obviously, um, that walk can be a struggle for me because there's moments when things like that happen. As also lost my brother years ago as a police officer in the line of duty, and it really does test your faith when
Mhm,
things like that happen. And this obviously did, and so there's times I struggle with. I've given so much to God, and when something like happens, I want to take it back, and I
mhm,
know I shouldn't. But because I tend to be a stereotypical old school macho man type person, I think I've got this. But the truth is God's got it.
mhm.
And this last round we went through, some news was given to us that was just. I mean, I went in, and my daughter would tell you we were waiting in the doctor's waiting room, and I just kind of snuck us as I got to go, and I went to the bathroom, and I've so I went. I thought I was going to puke. I mean, I was sick to my stomach. I just went in there and I'm just like, and I prayed. I said, God, I said, you know what I can handle, and
Mhm.
I need you to make sure you're not putting too much on me, because this is my baby girl. I can't have anything going wrong with her.
Mhm.
And we go in, and this one test came back negative, which was, and I felt this weight come off my shoulders. And I've never heard a voice of God.
Mhm.
I had feelings, and I just for twice during this last month I literally felt God say, I told you I've got this. Stop worrying about it. I've got this. So yeah, I think that's one of my biggest struggles is just, that the consistent uh walk with God. But as I get older, it is getting easier, but
Mhm.
it's still a struggle for me.
So looking back at your life, I'm gonna let you peer into your life for me. What do you feel like is one of your deepest regrets in life?
Um, if I was going to be selfish, I would probably, I guess it's not selfish. So out of high school, I played baseball in high school, played
Mhm.
my whole life, my whole dream. I tell everybody, you look at my quote signature, it's an autograph because I was going to play pro baseball. I mean, I was a really good pitcher and worked hard at it, but I was also extremely cocky and arrogant about
Mhm.
it. Um, so if I was could change something, if I could change something, it may be that because I'd love to have had the opportunity to try to truly make it into the
Mhm.
majors. I don't know that I ever would. However, what I've got today, if I had to give up the family that I have right now for that career, no, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change anything about my life. I think God, and then again, that's the selfish thing. I think God puts us and does things in our life. He don't always do things. He allows things to happen in our life. A, to glorify Him, and B, when we look back, we go, "Wow, it's that
Mhm.
mind blown." That's what God was doing. So if I look back in honesty, I wouldn't change anything about my life. There's things, again, I'd love for my brother to still be here. I would love my daughter not to be going through stuff right now. Um, I would love my son not to have dealt what he had to when he was a baby.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, we're where we're at because it's all part of God's greater plan. And as I've gotten older, I've learned to accept. I struggle with it, but I accept it, and I'm able to go that way. So, yeah, selfishly, love to play pro baseball. Truthfully, I wouldn't change anything because I mean, you've met my wife, you've met my
Mhm.
family. I tell everybody if my wife had lived during the time of Mary, I truly believe God would have looked down and been like, I'm not sure. Only reason you're not getting my son is because you're not really from the line of David and Mary
Mhm.
is. So yeah, so again, Trina, she is outside of God. Uh, she is my rock.
Mhm.
She means everything in the world to me. So I would not give that up to play pro baseball.
So I guess you kind of tapped into this question, but who inspires you the most?
Um,
And you can't say Jesus. You can't say Jesus. Though. Can't
no,
say
no, no,
Jesus.
no. I was going to say let's go with person because I mean I think that's pretty obvious. My wife does, but there's no question about that. If she makes me want to be better constantly. 30 years of marriage,
Mhm.
and I'm not who I am today. I am not the sweet, loving, huggable bear that I am today without her. No, truthfully, I'm not. I'm nowhere in my walk with Christ without her. I mean, today we just got through putting some rocks out on our house that we
Mhm.
recently built and moved into. We're doing these steps. I mean, these are 2, 3, 400 pound rocks. We're out there, just her and I, moving these things around. Um, and there's plenty of times I'm like, I ain't gonna do this. But little things like that. I always want to do those things because I want her to be happy. So yeah,
Mhm.
she is definitely my driving force. There's no question about
Do you feel like there was a time within y'all's 30 years of marriage that um the love grew stronger because of what y'all went through?
that. Oh, absolutely. There was a, and I go back again to God allows things to occur in our
Mhm.
lives, not that He makes it happen. Because I truly believe the bad things that happen in our lives typically is because of something we as mankind or we
Mhm.
as ourselves have done. But my wife and I, yeah, we went through a situation where I will say most marriages end, and because my wife is the absolute greatest Muhammad Ali marriage fighter this world has ever seen. Um, she was not going to let this marriage fall apart, and I don't want to use the term worship the ground she
Mhm.
walks on because I think that's blasphemous.
Mhm.
But as close as I can get to that without being blasphemous is how it is. So yeah, and it was so the two things going through that on a
Mhm.
personal level. And then, as you know, as I said earlier, my brother was a deputy sheriff, a canine officer, and went out to track a guy and was ambushed, and him and his canine were shot and killed in line of duty. And um, that, and actually, that was part of the catalyst that led to our marital issue that
Mhm.
went on. Um, But with that being said, again, things were allowed to happen for a reason. And because of what her and I have been through, I have been able to counsel people through similar situations and save marriages through it. And again, when I have anybody in my life that comes to me with, that deals with these situations, you'll never guess what the first word of advice I give them.
Say
God.
sorry. Oh,
Find God. No, no, no. It's not, because sorry doesn't matter. Of course you're sorry. You're not sorry what you did. You're sorry you got caught.
mm,
That's what we're sorry about. It's go to God. Number one,
mm,
you go to God first. God is what's going to solve, is going to help you solve the issue at hand. And again, you have to fully give it over to him.
mm,
So, but we go through these things. I ran into people that, I have a friend that lost his brother early in life, and I'll never forget. One day we were talking. He said, "Man," he says, "this is one way to look at it." This is not long after it happened. He goes, "You will never picture your brother old and decrepit. You'll
mm,
only remember him full of energy," and it's true. And I mean, one of the blessings of that is, and this is something again that made my marriage stronger, because the
mm.
last words I ever spoke to my brother was on Nextel. And anybody out there listening knows what Nextel is. Back in the day, that little phone, you hit a button, and, go, and then the other, it was a walkie-talkie, and I was sitting at a Lowe's in South Lakeland, and I'm sorry, it was North Lakeland. And we were talking about something. I was going that Saturday to help him weld a trailer with me, and I was getting welding rods and sitting there at checkout. Last words we said, something you never say as a man, because we're mentally men, we don't do these things. And I said, came over. I said, "Hey, man, I love you, man." And he radio back. He goes, "I love you too, brother." Last words him and I ever spoke. And where that went to my marriage is, I will never go a day. I don't care how aggravated my wife and I are at each other. I'm never going to not tell that woman that I love her. With what we're going through with our kids, I'm not going to let people not know that I care. I don't care for fighting. I love
Mhm.
you. Come on, I love you, brother. I don't care. I don't care that my hair is better than yours. I still love you, man.
I mean, like, if we had to put a poll, I think my hair would come out winning. This is
You can see your hair. Mine, you got to look just all right. That gray's kind of overtaking it for sure.
so coming from playing pro baseball and then also joining the military and now being the one of the VPs for your company, you come across a lot of people, a lot of acquaintances, and what do you think are the most important qualities of a friend?
Um, hmm, man, that's a good question. One of my best friends in the world, outside of Trina, of course. I mean,
Mm,
she's by far my best and best friend, bar none. But I got a friend named Bobby, and lives in Arkansas, and him and I've been friends since, I guess, we were 11 or 12 years old, so 40 plus years.
mhm,
And him and I can literally, and this has happened. We've gone, and people listen has got, "Y'all are best friends. You didn't talk for 2 years." Yeah, because life. I
mhm,
mean, life happens, and you get going. And literally 2 years went by, and Trina was there when this situation happened. I called him up one day, and I was like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And it was like, we talked yesterday. It doesn't end. Um, so if you look and go, what is it that makes a great friend? Number one, there's a loyalty,
mhm.
um, a loyalty. But to get the loyalty, I think you got to be trustworthy.
Oh, for sure.
So I think, yeah, I mean, I look at people like, are you trustworthy? Are you willing to be loyal? I mean, the loyalty is, man, it's just something that don't exist today in the large scheme of things. It's really sad. But I think I look for that. Yeah, that'd probably be the biggest thing to me is, I want somebody that's willing to be loyal, but they have to be trustworthy, and that's true of relationships.
Mhm,
Because if you have a relationship and if you know somebody and there's not a trust built, you have an acquaintance. You don't have a
mhm.
friend. That's just, I think, the way I would see it. Yeah, I definitely have to say that. That would probably be it.
I like that. There's no trust built. That's just an acquaintance. It's not a friend. I
Yeah.
like that. So digging into kind of like, losing your brother and then what the family is going through now. What is the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
Oh, trust God. Trust God. When we lost my brother, that happened on a Thursday. Trina at the time was very heavily involved with a teen group at church,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd built this house, and everybody that knows us, they hear us talk about our big house. I mean, this house is 5,000 square feet,
Oh.
an acre of land, swimming pool, had a theater room in it. It was a beautiful home. It wasn't anything that me, Trina, and two kids needed. It was and I would say partially we built it for me, a little bit of arrogant side of it. I mean, it was, we worked hard and God's blessed us, so we can do that. But truthfully, we realized back again to that hindsight being 2020, and I'm gonna pull a page out of Cy Robertson's book because he always talks about that footsteps in the sand poem, where in our troubled times we look back and see one set of footsteps, and we're like, God, why are we here? And he's like, what are you talking about? I was carrying you. It's even through our good times, because during that time, I built a house. Like, look at what I've done. No, God provided that, because God needed that house for something that He was doing in our life, and that was getting involved with these teens. And we started out with this teen group. We'd have 10, 12 kids there on a Wednesday night, and they went 10 12, 15, 18, 25. And by the time Katrina and I had to step away from it, we had 50, 60 kids showing up on a Wednesday night. So when we lost my brother that Thursday, of course, Sunday I'm gonna be at church, and I'm down there in the front row. We had this area we called the student group was called Core Ministries. So we had come up with this idea at the front of the church. We want all the teens there, and we call it the lava pit. Core of the earth, lava pit. Good use of our words here. But I'm sitting in a chair, and they've got a picture up there of Matt. Everybody in the church knows what this. I mean, there were over 10,000 people at his funeral when we had his funeral. To this day, I go into Polk County, there are people that I will run into that's like, oh, you're Matt's brother. So, and that's been 20 years ago, 2006. But so I'm sitting there, and I can't keep my wits about me. I'm just constantly crying, and I'm kneeled down. They're praying for me, and I looked up, and there's 40, 50, 60 kids just surrounded me. So did we build a big house so that those kids had somewhere to meet? Yeah. I mean, we built it for pride. God used it for the kids. But when I get down to the heart of it, we built a big house so we'd have a place for all these kids to show up. So when my brother died, God would say, I am with you, and I'm with you through these kids. And when I look back at that moment in my life, I realized that that's what it was about. And everything that goes on in our life. I mean, where we live now. We've got a lot of land, and with some friends of ours, and a nice house. And when people say, "What your wife and I? It's just you and your wife. You don't need a house." No, I don't. But you know what? God's going to put people in our lives that do need to be here. They're going to need to come hang out. They're going to need a place. So that's why, so God gives us the means to do things that we do. And if we cannot use it to glorify God, then it was done for ourselves. So we try to prevent that. So yeah, that was a huge moment in my life when we lost Matt, was having that. It was because I don't think if I had that, I probably would have turned that faith emotional. But because I had that, because God planned that at that moment in my life, He knew way back here. And when I say way back here, I'm talking about when He said exist in the world came into existence. He knew then. He looked up and says, that idiot ain't gonna be able to handle this. I'm gonna have to surround him. So all right, I know I got to take care of that. And it mesmerized me to think about that, just the infinite wisdom of the Almighty Creator, that He knew on that very day, if I didn't have that I wouldn't be where I needed to be at.
I like that.
I hope I answered your question right.
Yeah. So flipping from the dark side to a more positive light, what are you proudest of in your life?
Everyone wants to use obviously their children. And you know what? I can say that because I made the comment again. Obviously, Josh, you know Josh is something very special. Josh and Kimmy were very special to you for obvious reasons, and but to look, I'm I'm very proud of my children. They are both God fearing, God centered. I mean, my daughter took on an atheist instructor in college, and I'm pretty sure that guy walked away going, "Hmm, she might be onto something here." She, if I have questions biblically, I call her and go, "Where do I find this at?" I said, "You know, what does this mean?"
Mm.
In Josh, his love of people, Christ shines through that love of people with him.
Josh is kind of iffy though, but
He's
we're not
what?
gonna, he's kind of iffy, but we're not gonna tell him that though.
Well, he's a little scatterbrained, but you know, I'll tell you what, there's not many 30-year-old,
Mm.
30-something-year-old guys out there that you'll see what is he? Actually, geez, he's older now. Holy cow, I'm getting old. He's 34. 34-year-old men out there that just love God and
Mm.
love people. He just has a heart. He has an amazing heart. So I'm so proud of my children, very proud of our four beautiful grandchildren.
Mm.
So very proud of that. But I'm proud of the fact that they're there because I married an angel that God sent to me. And
Mm.
I'm probably most proud of the fact that she is my partner. That's probably what I'm most proud of is that God saw enough in me to say, I'm going to send one of my special people to be with you, and you're going to try to screw it up, but you can't. I'm sending you some. I'm sending what did you say? I'm sending you a solid,
Mm.
and that's what he did. So, just proud of of my family.
Mm.
I think anybody that knows me will. If you were to ask them again, again, yeah, I've worked with big corporations. I've been division presidents for builders, and I've had my own company building. I was a presidential guard in the Air Force.
Mm.
I, I played briefly up in the minor leagues. I tore my arm up. I've done some really neat stuff. And if you'd asked me that question 20 years ago, you probably got a totally different answer. I
Mm.
still say I was proud of my kids and my wife. I don't think it would be as fervent as I am now. That my proudest thing on this planet, outside of my relationship with God, it is my relationship with my wife and my two amazing children.
So coming up on these last two questions before I open up the floor to you to
Okay.
pose any questions back to me. If you were to write a story about your pain or your life, what would the last sentence be?
Ooh, the last sentence.
The last sentence.
Boy, I was not expecting this kind of question. Um, So I'm gonna make some comments about this because I thought what you was gonna say if I wrote a book, what would it be called? And you may have already heard I tell about it. If I ever got
Mhm.
smart enough, I want to write a book called God Shouts at You Silently.
Mhm.
And it's just about the times in your life, just like I brought up with the kids surrounding me around my brother's death. There's so many stories, and you've heard some of them where we've had $405.27, and we went and just we're going to go buy all these toys for Christmas, and when we go to check out, whatever it's over, we know it's going to be over. We're just going to go in and we're Trina and I'll pay that out of our own pocket. And we get up there, and the people's like, "Oh, were you military? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you get a 10%. Oh, this is going to be for y'all doing this. Okay, we're going to we'll
Mhm.
donate money. Okay, and then all right, here's your total. Blah blah blah, and 26 cents. And you're like, are you kidding me? And it's happened so many times. One of the greatest moments was we were raising $10,000 for the church to try
Mhm.
to buy a building, and we said we're going to take our summer. We're not going to take the kids to youth camp. We're going to raise money. And at the last day when we were going to give the money, we were at $8,000. We missed our goal, but the kids worked so hard. I'm like, all right, so we're gonna get up at church that morning. And about 10 minutes before church started, a guy comes up, he calls me aside and he said, "Hey, my wife and I is gonna be leaving the church. I don't know if they were moving somewhere. I really
Mhm.
don't understand his comment when they were leaving the church. But he goes, you guys worked so hard. We just want to, and now the only two people on the planet that knew how much money was raised was me and Trina. That's
Mhm.
it. Nobody else knew. And he goes, we just want to give something, all y'all's hard work. Hope this helps out. Hands me a check for $2,000.
Mhm.
And the pastor at that point, I did tell him we hadn't reached our goal. We had missed it. I didn't tell him by how much. And I walked back right before I got on stage, and I looked at him and I go, "Remember I told you we didn't hit our goal?" He goes, "Yeah." And I go, and I showed him that check, and he goes, "You're kidding me."
Hmm.
So I would have to say, I would hope that at the end of that book, maybe that last sentence would be something like, "He was a hard-headed guy, but God used him in great ways."
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that would have to be somewhere on that line. Said that as many times I've gotten God's way, He found a way to use me. I'm sometimes I feel like I'm a modern day Saul, and maybe at the end I finally become Paul. I don't know, but I hope that's the case, man. But I do. I hope. I can be a hard person to get along with sometimes. I love people. I'm a
Hmm.
little softer than I used to be, but I just hope at the end of this journey, um, that people look and that's what they say is, man, that guy was a knucklehead, but how God used him to touch the world.
So, last question before I open up the floor to you, and then, of course, ask the closing question at the end. What are some of the things you want to prevent your grandkids in this situation or the future generation from going through that you went through?
Uh, one thing we told our two things. This is going to seem kind of odd. I mean, the obvious again. Anybody listen to this, if you ain't figured out by now, my mom always my go to, and a lot of the go to of guests that you have, Devon, is always it's God. I mean,
Mhm.
we're very God centered people. Um, we always raised our kids two things. Number one has to do with their career choice.
Mhm.
I hope if any kids get out there listening to this, stop letting the school systems tell you that the only way to be successful in this life is to spend a boatload of money at a university. Number one, these universities are teaching kids just horrible things. They're leading them down horrible paths. Um, and if there's parents listening to this, stop telling your kids that the only way to success in this world is through a 4-year college degree and a master's degree and a PhD. Man, that's the biggest bunch of hokum that has been fed us since I was in school. And I'll never forget a guidance counselor coming to me one day and looked at me and said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" "A pro baseball player."
Mhm.
That's what I want to do. And they and she's like, "No, no, no, seriously, take baseball out of it. What do you want to do?" I said, "I don't know." And they go, "Well, if you don't think it's something, do you want to be like your dad?" And it pardon my language, it pissed me off. My dad, at 16 years of age, served on the front lines of Germany in World War
Mhm.
II. I know everybody's listening to this going, "How old is this guy?" My dad was 42 years old when I was born.
Mhm.
So, grew up through the Great Depression, served in World War II, served in Korea, um, and then was a truck driver. Had a ninth or 10th grade education. He didn't finish school. Um, my dad had the biggest heart of anybody, a hard man, but had a heart, loved people. And I remember looking at that guidance counselor going, "I'd love to be half the man that my dad was."
Mhm.
I would, yes, no, I would be proud to be the man my dad was. But my dad never pushed so much the secondary education when it came to the college. He's find what you love and find a way to make money legally doing it. And I did. I know people that do what I do that make maybe what I make, maybe less, maybe more,
Mhm.
that have spent a lot of time, effort, and energy in colleges and stuff. And I'm sitting there going, I didn't spend a lot of time in college. I went out and figured out how to do this stuff and learn how to run a business, learn how to run companies, learn how to build stuff, and have done quite well with it. You don't have to have that. So, one thing I'd want to prevent kids today is stop being suckered into this university bullcrap because the
Mhm.
majority. Now, don't get me wrong, there are careers and people out there that are geared and need to do that.
Mhm.
I have no problem. The second thing that, and this is kind of a faith related thing, but it's the one thing, if I could go back and change something about my past, would be what we taught our kids, and I hope everybody teaches your kids this. When you live your life, God has set a person aside to be your mate for
Mm-hmm.
life. Stop going out and thinking just because your hormones are raging like they're racing like a freaking lead lap of the Daytona 500. Stop letting that control you.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you find that person, the greatest gift you can give one another outside of your walk with God is yourself, a clean and pure self. And I wasn't there. My wife and I, neither one were able to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But to say that, I look at Tim Tebow, and again, all I know is what I hear and see about him, but what I believe to be true about him. This is a man who, his gift on his wedding night to his wife was him.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at kids, and this may be a weird thing, probably no one's ever going to answer this question like this before, but I'm like, how much I wish I could go back and then look at my wife and go, all I ever knew was you, and that's it. I would hope that kids would stop doing that. It would stop teenage pregnancy. It
Mm-hmm.
would stop sexually transmitted diseases. It would stop people killing one another in
Mm-hmm.
instances. There's so many things that stop. If you follow God's teaching, the world's a better place. So yeah, I would really try to embark those two things. Stop thinking your only good career move is you got to go to college. You got to get educated, not
Yeah.
necessarily university. And there's someone out there that deserves something from you that nobody else has ever had, and
Mm-hmm.
save it for that person. They're deserving of it. I mean, what a fireworks show. You like fireworks. What a fireworks show that's got to be when two people's like, I don't even know what we're doing, but we're about to learn together.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be incredible. So yeah, that'd be it.
So as we pull up on our last roughly about 5 minutes, I guess we're
Okay.
gonna have to do a speed round, opening up the floor to you, um, to pose any questions back to either me or the listeners of the
I tell you,
podcast.
because you and I have talked so much, Devon, with when you first got to down here in Alabama. I'm very proud of the fact that you're no longer sold like you used to. Well, when I understand what you're saying now. And for those y'all listening to this from Hawaii, y'all know what I'm talking about. Some of you in Hawaii is like, that's not even English. Now, some people in Alabama, y'all ain't speaking English. Just letting you know. But honestly, I would say, and this, I know the answers to what the answer I'm about to ask you here, but I want maybe people out there to hear it. Is you're 21 years old,
Mm-hmm.
a debilitating disease that you have. You and your sister share this together. What is it? I mean, that I couldn't imagine. I mean, again, at 21, well, at
Mm-hmm.
21, I was in the military trying to do crazy stuff, but I can't even imagine at 21 if you were in the athletics and everything. How are you? What is it that made you stop and go? This don't matter. It's God. It's what is it that keeps you hanging on to God as strong as you hold on to Him?
I probably have to say it's just, I guess the base answer is it's him. It's him that's pushing me that far. I just growing up running away from home and going through all the stuff that I went through, I realized that God got me no matter what I'm going through. And no matter how bad I'm gonna lose physically, I think we had recently just talked about this. No matter how bad I'm gonna lose physically, and I forgot who I said this to, but I was like, our bodies are gonna die because that's what happened when sin entered the world. Our bodies are gonna die, and that's unfortunate. However, I can't let my mental be in a prison because if my mental goes into a prison, then I'm not gonna be able to do anything to help myself out. And at the end of the day, my life is in God's hands, and it's just bringing me so much joy, just knowing that God's gonna take care of me. And if God wants me to walk again, He's gonna make me walk again. And if God wants me to stay seated, He's gonna keep me. He's gonna keep me sitting. So no matter what I'm going through, just knowing that I can praise God through the storm, kind of what carries my heart and my head high.
Awesome. Well, I can tell you one thing. I'm gonna go ahead and forecast way in the future. You will walk again, brother. You're gonna walk again, and that may not be on this earth, but when you got that new body,
100%.
You ain't ever ran wind sprints like you're gonna be able to run them then. I'm telling you right now. So, I'm curious because I'm wondering, will my hair still be gray? Because I kind of think it will be because I think it's kind of, sporting with the gray beard. I kind of like the look, so I'm kind of thinking, he might get rid of this belly I got.
So digging into the last minute and a half that we have here, you have one sentence, Joe. What's one piece of advice you can give the listeners of the podcast?
Search God with all your heart because He is calling you. Every ounce of your being, pursue God, because the end results is nothing that you can ever imagine. His word is true. He built a beautiful globe to live on, not a flat earth. But no, yeah, pursue God with everything you've got, and you will be surprised at how easy, I don't say easy, how He pulls you through things that you would not imagine you could come through.
Well, thank you, Joe, for hopping on the podcast. We do appreciate it. And like you said, guys, he's always around. If y'all ever need somebody to lean on or talk to, I'm not gonna put his social medias out there. If he wants to, he'll do that himself. But he's a fun and caring man. The way to his heart is through food. So we all like to eat. So if you want to talk to him, you got to bring some food around. You know what I'm
saying? Food or a good bourbon. I do like a good bourbon too. So.
And yeah, like I said, thank you, Joe, for coming on the podcast. If y'all are listening to this while sitting next to somebody, be sure to tell them that you love them. We'll catch you in the next one. Thank you.
Love you, Devon. Have a good one, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you for listening to the David and the Bear podcast. Thank you for listening to the David and the Bear podcast, where every story ends in victory. Yes, sir.